Hey guys, it's Will from EDM Tips. Today I'm going to show you how to make techno in the style of Deborah de Luca. This is the latest in my series of In the Style of videos, the links of which are popping up now, and as usual, you can download this project file, all the samples and presets completely free using the link below this video. I'm going to be creating a bit of a crazy remix of a Britney Spears song today. I don't know how it happened, but it happened, and I was inspired to do that because Deborah de Luca did a remix of a Britney Spears song as well. So today we're going to go into creating that distorted techno kick and bass. We're going to look at how to use auxiliary reverbs and distortion to create a really rich, deep techno sound, and I'm going to show you how to bring in samples from existing records to create your own interesting remixes of them. If you want more in-depth coaching, don't forget to check out my coaching link below this video. We've helped our students get signed to some of the world's biggest labels, and if you enjoyed this video, please like, share it with your friends, and consider subscribing to my channel for music tutorials each and every week. Okay, without further ado, let's hop into the door and get it done. Okay, one take, techno in the style of Deborah de Luca. So first I want to touch upon the vibe. We want this to be about 135 BPM, and her music, like a lot of techno, has got a lot of distortion, gives it a really nice kind of warehouse feel, and that's what we're going to go for today. So first let's name this. What should we call it? I'm actually going to make an interesting remix today, actually. So what I'm going to call this is Deborah. Let's do it. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is get the kick in there. So choosing the right sounds is obviously super important. I'm just going to zoom in, and I'm going to work in audio today rather than MIDI. Just going to tighten up the kick a little bit so it's only going along half a beat, like so. Now let's put it on every beat. Boom, 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 boom. I want you in my room. Let's do it. Done. There's techno for you. Next, we're going to make in fact, before we make the techno rumble, I'm going to shape this kick a little bit, getting sounding a little bit more distorted. Because as I said, that's what we're going for, like quite a distorted sound today. So we've got an overdrive on there. But it's taking out too much of the bass, I think. Like if you distort it fully, it's all really high frequencies, and we want some of those sub frequencies in there still. So let's use the dry wet control and just get a bit more texture in it like that. Okay, now let's make the techno rumble. So what I'm going to do is create a new audio channel. Let's call this rumble. Rubmla. Nah, let's spell it properly. Rumble. Color this yellow, the natural color of techno rumbles. And now I'm going to open up the routing, and we're going to take the audio from the kick and then make sure that we've got the monitoring turned on. And at the moment, this is just doubled up. You can see here, it's the same signal. So we need to smear this out and kind of make it into that reverb rumble. So first thing I'm going to do on this chain is get a reverb on there. Just extend the reverb time with the decay time until it's sounding like it's quite a smooth sound. That's too much. It's just a constant noise. So that sounds like a good sweet spot. Okay, next thing we're going to do is put a filter on there to take out those high frequencies. Now the order in which you put your plugins is super important. And I'm going to put this before the distortion, and you'll hear why soon. Okay, so that sounds all right, but what we want to do is get a really distorted big sound. So I'm going to put an amp after that, which is a distortion unit, and let's just experiment with some of the settings. That's crazy. That sounds good. So the reason I've got it after the filter is because I want some of those high frequencies popping through even when I've got the filter down low, because we're going to be automating this soon. So you can hear what happens when you put the distortion after the filter. It's introducing some high frequencies again. Like, that's gnarly. Let's go back to bass. we're going to use, no, we'll use rock because it's really gnarly. Maybe this one. Okay, that sounds cool. Next thing we're going to put on there is a compressor, and that is just so we can tame any kind of loud peaks. So if this is the level, you can see the volume kind of changes slightly depending on where the filter is selected. So we want to just smooth that out a bit. Let's make the compression kick in straight away. And that's a bit of a smoother feel. Okay, next thing we are going to do is add the pumping effect. And that's going to help it actually give us some rhythm. So let's leave that compressor as it was. And then let's call this one a pump compressor, because that's what it's going to be doing, creating that pumping effect. So let's open up this sidechain button here, press the sidechain input. I'm taking my sidechain input from my sidechain channel, which is just a very short, sharp rim shot that you can never hear because it's selected to go to sends only. So you never actually hear that tick, but it gives me maximum control over the length of that ducking. So let's choose that as the input. So you can hear it's making it bounce now. Cool, so that's pretty much the sidechain rumble. And if you want more on how to create the ultimate sidechain rumble, you can click on the video that's popping up about now. There are a couple more techniques. So now let's create the hat. And we want quite a distorted, gnarly sounding hat as well. So let's just color that green because it's a drum. Go to my creative toolkit, EDM Tips Creative Toolkit. And let's listen to some of these hi-hats. I think this one sounds quite distorted and gnarly, so let's put that on there. Gnarly is my word of the day today, by the way, if you hadn't noticed. Now let's put this in between every kick, turn it down so it's not too loud. But we want this to be a really short hat, actually, so more like a closed hat. Just like that. So let's use that and duplicate it. But we want to add some more reverb to this. So I'm going to use an auxiliary channel for this. So if you can see over on my auxiliary channels, I've got 3 set up at the moment. These are just by default, so don't worry about the other ones. In fact, let's keep things simple. Let's do it one by one. So we've got a hall reverb, and all I've got is a reverb unit on there, boosting it up slightly with the gain and then taking out some of the low end. And let's feed some of the hat into that hall reverb. But I want this hall reverb, again, sounding a bit more distorted. So I'm going to now add a distortion unit on that reverb. So if we go to my distortion units here, let's try some overdrive. And I'm going to turn it down with the gain afterwards because this overdrive is going to add a lot of volume. So if we group the overdrive and the utility together, we can hear the difference it's making to the sound. So it's just adding some more grit to it. Okay, next thing, boom boom. We are going to make our own percussion, our own custom techno percussion. Again, it's going to be distorted, but I wanted to give you some new tips today that I haven't shared before. So if we color this techno percussion, let's just go green again. I'm going to create this from just a random sample. Let's just throw on a simpler, which is Ableton's kind of simplest sampler. And then let's go to some random effects and create a percussion out of it. I mean, that stuff's already percussive, so we want something a bit longer. I know a good sample actually. Let's go to effect. Here we go. So this is no way you could think this is a percussion sound. It's some weird effect. So what we're going to do is just bring the sample start point to wherever we want. And then play with the sustain, take that right down, take the decay right down, so it's dying out quickly. Boost up the volume a bit. And there's our percussion. So let's just record some of that in. And that's what we are going to kind of duplicate and run with, because that's what's happened. So let's go in there and quantize this, make sure it's in time. So I'm going to make sure 16ths are selected, and then grab them all, open up the quantize. And then this is what we're going to duplicate as our techno rhythm. So let's process it, make it sound really grungy and a lot more interesting than it currently is. So I'm just going to copy and paste that pump compressor. So it's ducking. That's the first thing I'm going to do. So that's already adding interest and movement. Now let's get another distortion unit on there. I'm going to go for amp again. I just really like this Ableton amp. Plug in. Make sure that you've got output selected to dual though, if you want it in stereo. Awesome, there we've got some techno percussion already. So let's make sure that we're taking out any low ends that's not needed. In fact, we're going to play with the resonance a bit just to make it sound a bit more interesting. And we're going to feed this into the exact same reverb. And we'll actually duck the reverb slightly as well. So let's copy and paste the pump compressor onto the reverb channel too. And everything's now kind of pumping in time with that kick, which is, yeah, just adding some more interest and some real rhythm to the track. Cool, now let's get the 16th hats on there for when the groove's going. So again, let's just use, let's just use audio instead of MIDI because we're already doing that. So let's go 16th hats. Let's just go back to the EDM Tips Creative Toolkit, which you can grab below this video and find some. That's quite an interesting sound. So let's choose that. I would usually do this in MIDI. But what I'm going to do is just have them on every 16th. But what I want to do is add some variation in the volume, just to make this a little bit more interesting. You can either do that with automation, or how could we do this? Let's see. Let's see what we could do today. Something a bit different, I think. Maybe auto pan. Let's see what we can do. First, we want it happening with every bar. So at the moment, this is panning left and right. So we want 4/4 selected. So now, because we put the left and the right perfectly in phase, it's now turning into a volume ducking tool. So this is off, constant volume, and now this is on. And that's just adding more interest again. Okay, next thing we are going to do is create a techno synth. So I'm going to use the wavetable for this. And let's color it cyan, the natural color of synths. And let me know if you're enjoying this so far, guys. Give me a hell yeah or an amen brother below this video. And let me know who else you want to see me cover as well in terms of styles. What's that sound? Stop it sound. Cease and desist. Okay, so now we've got our synth. Let's choose a saw wave. And we're going to have something that kind of interplays with this techno percussion. I'm going to make it a bit pluckier, take down the sustain. Something like that. But let's add some more interest by assigning this envelope 2 to the filter cutoff. Matrix, filter frequency to envelope 2, envelope 2. So it could be fun to actually automate the attack time on this. But let's get a sound going first, a rhythm. I quite like that. And let's just get rid of most of it, and we'll tweak this manually because I think I preferred it before when I was just playing it in. I got the wrong rhythm this time, so let's quantize it. That sounds a bit better. It's a bit more of a groove going on that. Let's just copy and paste that. And now let's again make this really distorted. And then we're going to create some interesting effects very soon. So distortion, I'll use the overdrive today. Actually, no, first thing I'm going to do is compressor. Add some unison. Make it a bit wider. Second oscillator. Detune it. Now I prefer it without the... No, I prefer it with the second oscillator as well. Okay, let's... Let's play with this attack, the envelope 2 attack. Let's just automate it slightly just to create a bit of interest and movement. And let's add a compressor just to make sure it's all roughly the same volume. And it's a bit more ticky, like a bit, yeah. And then we are going to add let's add an amp before that. Just a bit of distortion. That sounds pretty cool. Okay, cool. Now we're really cooking. So the next thing we're going to do is add a little bit of interest in the auxiliary channel for this. So I'm going to put the pump compressor on again so it's bouncing with the track. going to take out some of the high frequencies in this. It's a little bit too clicky. First, let's add a little bit of erosion. That sounds pretty cool. EQ, take out some of those low frequencies. And now the interesting thing we're going to do is create an auxiliary channel and then throw on a, what's it called? A reverb, an echo unit. And this is just going to add, again, some more interest. It's all about the interest in terms of the distortion and the pumping and the reverb in this kind of music. So let's feed some of the synth. Choose ping pong mode. And again, let's put some of that sidechain pumping effect on the auxiliary channel. Add some reverb to that echo. And now if we were to automate this, create some interesting movement. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of arrangement and then I'm going to add some crazy, weird, unexpected vocal. So let's just duplicate this. And as I said, with this style of music and with Deborah de Luca's type of techno, one thing I noticed was the automation of the filter on the techno rumble itself. So if we automate this low pass filter to open up, it's going to create movement and arrangement in the track. So if we listen to the kick and the bass on their own, we can open this up over time. So you can hear the bass rumble is now getting higher, which sounds pretty cool. So you can hear that's how we're creating movement and interest in the track. And if you imagine you've got the synth having its automation, like say filter automation, and you've got the filter automation on the techno rumble, you're suddenly adding a lot more interest to the track. And then all of your delays and reverbs are kind of taking care of everything else. They're adding, you know, because there are more high frequencies then in those as well. And the whole thing just kind of opens up and expands up and expands out. Now let's get that vocal very soon. This is actually a pretty banging track at the moment, like without any mixing. Okay, I'm going to bring in da, 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 da. Can you guess who I'm going to bring in? I'm going to bring in Britney Spears. Do your bit, Britney. It's Britney, bitches. Let's assign that color. Green, natural color of drums. Get everything a bit more organized. Yeah, and I'm just going to bring in I'm a Slave. So you might know this track. It's a few years old. It's a pop track. I won't play it all because I'll get flagged for copyright and I don't want to get flagged for copyright. So first thing I'm going to do is get this in sync with our track. So if we just go to the first transient in the clip and warp this, by default it's going to warp to whatever your project tempo is. Now, the easiest way to find out the tempo is just Google it, okay? There are ways that you can kind of work it out if you don't have Google or if it's not on there, but in this instance, I know it's 110 BPM, so I'm just going to put it in here, and now it's in sync with our track straight away, which we can hear if I was just to play this alongside. Why is that not happening? There we go. But we only want a little bit of this track by Britney. So let's go to the main hook that I want. There, this is the bit I want, the hook of the track. I'm a slave. Cool. That's all I want. I like the for you as well, actually. Cool. And I'm going to split this into two tracks because one is going to be creating some interesting rhythm, and then the other we're actually going to use to play the loop. So let's get a rhythm going on in this track. Turn it down so we don't clip. So this is what we're going to loop, just this little bit. Let's just fade that end bit out. Wait a sec, this is going to be really cool. Okay, so we're just going to duplicate this little loop that we've made. Make sure that we put our pump compressor on there so it bounces. So this is on its own. And that's with the bouncing. So now with all the beats, this loop, and before this, of course, we're going to have to put on, I think we're going to need a normal compressor because we're going to add a filter, and that filter is going to be adding some resonant frequencies. So you can see it's now starting to peak. So let's compress it a bit. I'm going to actually take down the volume before it even hits the filter, because you can see here it's peaking at 0 dB in our clip. You know, it's a nice big loud sound. So let's just take it down a bit. So we're not going to actually run into any clipping. Okay, now let's play the sample with the rest of the track. See how it sounds. Open up the filter. Okay, I actually want to add more distortion to this as well. This is going to be a cool track. Let's get some overdrive on the sample. Again, after the filter, for the same reason I mentioned earlier. We want those upper harmonics kind of coming through. Oh, that's like some kind of cybernetic dinosaur. Yeah, now we're cooking. In fact, we can play with some of these effects as well. Let's add some of this pumping echo. That sounds better than the synth. I might just leave the synth and have this because it's badass. Dino, Techno Dino. That's a good name for this track, Techno Dino. Actually, what are we going to have happening? This is going to be the build. Wait for it. Okay, let's have a little break here. And it's going to go... I'm getting carried away again. It's going to be pause for a second. Yes, that's what we're going to do. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. It's going to pause. That is bizarre, but whatever. I'm doing it now. It's too late. It can't be undone. Let's add this same... In fact, we're going to just do it on the same channel because I've already got the effect set up. So let's just bring it down there, delete this one. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm still doing it. Okay, turn that on so we don't copy the automation. This is going to be some weird break and then it's going to come in. I want the for you bit. Whoa, that's crazy. Yes, and then back in the drop. Oh, this is going to be heavy. Let's change the notes to match with the tune. I think this is going to match. That sounds better. For you, that's what we're going to have. It's going to go slave for you. But we need to turn up the cutoff so we can actually hear what's going on. Cool. You're being revitalized, Britney. There we go, cool. Now let's just copy and paste it. After that, let's do that. Boom. Although I prefer this synth, so first I'm going to copy and paste that synth. Not the automation though, so I'm pressing this button there to make sure we're not copying the automation. Duplicate it. And then let's copy and paste that whole beginning section and build it up again. Something like that, something like that. Although maybe it would be taking up the slave from down low again. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's do it that way. So let's bring the filter up again and build the track from there. Let's add some mastering to this as well. I'm just going to throw a drum bus on, get it sounding a bit chunkier. So there you have it, guys. You know, I could develop this out further, but that's the general idea that I'm going for on this track. Not too many tracks, all about the distortion, all about the delay, the reverb. Anyway, if you want more tutorials, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And yeah, it's been quite a difficult one today. I think I may have drunk too much last night. I don't recommend it. Winners don't do drugs. I didn't do drugs, I just drank too much wine. So you can download this project file, all the samples, presets completely free. And thanks again for watching. Until next time, cheers and happy producing.